All right, welcome to the very first Open Hearts Circle Hangout of 2015, and a very happy New Year to all of you who are tuning in with us live, and anybody else that is maybe watching the replay. My name is Gabriel Gonsalves. I'm a heart intelligence coach and also the founder of Heart and Mind Consulting and the upcoming Academy for Applied Heart Intelligence. And what you are participating here today, it's exactly that. It's an open heart circle. It's an invitation that my friend and coach Terry Malloy and I are extending to you to participate in what I call a conversation about what matters. Matters of the heart that goes beyond the confines of the limited mind. I believe that it is through our heart that we can really connect and really feel another person, rather than just agreeing with them or understanding them, but being able to actually feel what other people feel. That's, for me, that's really the definition of compassion. So Terry and I have made a decision to create this space on every other Thursday, every other week, and bring you an intimate space where you can connect, where we can share some ideas, and also bring you some amazing guests that can also enliven or join the circle, so that we can really talk about the things that really matter most. So I want to turn it over to Terry and introduce you to Terry in case you haven't had a chance to meet him. And on joining us in this circle is Terry Malloy. Terry, say hello.
Hi, Gabriel. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name's Terry Malloy, and I am a business coach. I say I am a business coach as though I'm sort of almost apologizing for the fact that I'm a business coach. I specialize in business, and I specialize in business really for a very simple reason. That's where most people spend their life, at work. And I believe that in order to sort of create a more peaceful and harmonious world, we need to do something fundamentally different in the way in which we operate in the workplace. So I help businesses to get very clear about what it is they're doing and why they're doing it, so that they can become more successful in generating sales, because in a way, as they become more successful, it takes away some of the pressure and tension that exists inside organizations where conflict and strife and stress comes from. So I've been doing this for about 12 years, but I'm very much at my heart committed to building heart-centered businesses. I call it putting soul into business. And soul for me is a sense of unified leadership where everybody inside an organization is not only moving in the same direction, but moving in the same direction at the same time. Because when we achieve that, we can, well, literally, we can do amazing things. So when Gabriel asked me to work with him last year in how to create a space that people could come to, whether they're in a work-related situation or a personal-related situation, but how can we create a sacred space every fortnight for people to just get real about what they're feeling, what's challenging them, not to have a gripe and a moan, but actually to get in touch with it. Because sometimes my own feeling is that we push away our emotions and how we're feeling about something. We're so afraid to just fall into that space that in a way we push it away, but we don't actually ever solve it. It's still there, no matter how much we ignore it. And there's a lot of things happening in the world at the moment that maybe we'd like to ignore, but the truth is you can't ignore them. You need to be aware that they're there in order to do something to make the world a better place. So our aim in these conversations is to invite people to take space and to share where they're at. And as Gabriel said, we've got some great speakers that we personally know that have touched us. Maybe people that you've never heard of. They're not necessarily big names, but what they stand for and the values by which they live their life, we feel will contribute something positive to your own life, and indeed to Gabriel's life and my life, because we are literally all one.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Terry. So I want to just begin by saying that this circle really is an experiment. Um, and so we're going to be learning and growing with you as it unfolds. And so both Terry and I are very interested in hearing from you. So if you want to be part of the conversation, I want to be invited, please let us know. You know, the starting point for this conversation is really, as Terry just mentioned, we connected last year. And what Terry and I began to do is just every week we just started having this conversations that allowed us to just to connect very, very deeply. And the conversation didn't really have a specific direction. There were really deep sharings about what mattered the most to us, you know. And it was really after several of these conversations that one day we just kind of decided, well, why don't we just create a circle, you know, or create projects around these kind of conversations. So what you're seeing now, it's really the development or the evolution of this first conversations that Terry and I began to have a long time ago. So how about if we take a moment to actually, Terry, just to check in, and the check-in is like really to just kind of share a little bit of what's really happening in your world right now, but at the level of, you know, of what's true and real for you that you'd like to share in this circle.
What's true and real right now is an anger. I can feel an emotion of anger related to somebody who's very important in my life, where I feel they trampled over a boundary and disrespected me in an enormous way that came as a complete surprise. And I've had the conversation with that person, and they were unaware of it, but equally they were unable to acknowledge how I felt.
Mm.
And so I feel incomplete in the connection and the relationship. So in a way, almost the idea of the circle is to be able to share something that is real to you, but it's not that anybody has to fix it. It's just allowing us the permission to be able to get real. Because sometimes we feel, and I know from the conversations that you and I have had, if I try to hide how I'm feeling about something, it seeps out. It seeps out in my body language and in the way in which I talk. And maybe, you know, you misunderstand, you think it's related to you, and it's got nothing to do with you. But I think I can hide it. And in truth, I can't. And I see that happening time and time again, that people can't try to put a mask over how they're feeling about something, and then somebody misunderstands what that mask means, and so we end up separating when we're all one, but we actually consciously separate ourselves by not just sharing where we're at. And so I thank you for the opportunity for asking me that question, and I'd equally like to know where you're at today.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, and you know, I just want to say before I kind of share where I'm at, that I really appreciate that, because it is true. You know, if we were to just kind of start a conversation and you were not sharing with me what was happening before or during the day and what you're feeling, I may take it personally. You know, in fact, you know, I have an ego the size of what, twice the United States. It's very easy for me to take things very personally. So for me today, you know, it has been a very difficult day. Past couple of days, I have been feeling angry, a lot of anxiety, and just a feeling, just really living in a lot of uncertainty. And I think that looking at the news of what happened in Paris, really really affected me, really touched me. Um, and I think what that did for me was, um, over the holidays, I made a decision to make a music video for a yeah, it's actually it is I'm giving voice to a Venezuelan man who is a political prisoner, um, and who cannot express himself. And so I have been having these like second thoughts and judgments of, oh my God, if I make this song and I dedicate it to him and I give him a voice, the Venezuelan government could actually attack me, could censor me, could hurt me. I actually have a Venezuelan brother who had to get political asylum because he was kidnapped and tortured by Venezuelan government special forces. So he had to, flee to the United States. And so I've lived my own, my own life, my own family, what it's like to have somebody that has experience, basically torture for believing different than the majority. And so anyway, so what happened there really just brought up a lot of fears and this a lot of self-doubt. Well, maybe I shouldn't be singing this song. Maybe I should not make the video. Maybe I should just play it safe. And so I've been sitting with a lot of that anger, that uncertainty, and insecurity that event has generated for me. And I think ultimately, the way I've been dealing with that is just breathing a lot into my heart. I've been practicing a lot of heart tapping, which is one of the techniques that I've been teaching a lot recently to a lot of my clients, and just focusing on just being present in the moment, which is what my connection to the heart does. So I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable, and to tell you the truth, when you and I decided that we were going to begin this first circle, talking or choosing the theme of the UN for the International Year of Light, I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm not feeling very enlightened today. Last thing I want to do is talk about light because I'm in a very dark space today.
Yeah.
So that's my take in.
Okay. It's an interesting one. You said, when we chose the topic of based around the UN's year of light. Um, Yesterday, with the massacre in Paris, um, there are massacres happening all around the world. It's very close to me. I spent about 6 years of my early adult life traveling to Paris, so I know the particular area where it took place. And so it feels closer to me because it's sort of on my doorstep. Um, but I sometimes wonder, in a sense, why therefore it should mean more to me than what's happening somewhere else. And there are other places where it's not being reported.
Hmm.
But it seems at the start of the UN's Year of Light that we're almost in a very dark place. I mean, it may well have been dark before Paris, but it makes it feel all the more real to me. And in a strange way, that probably makes me feel more connected in some ways to the people who are elsewhere in the world suffering a similar sort of ongoing tragedy
Yeah.
or terrorist outlook, that they're out of sight, out of mind for me every day. They're not part of my life, and I don't feel, in a sense, connected to them. And it's not to dwell on it, but it is to be conscious and aware of what's happening, and maybe more importantly, conscious and aware of the privilege of what I have in my life.
Yeah.
What I actually really appreciate right now, because I don't know how long I'll have that for. No, I might have a client that suddenly decides not to work with me. It's a very small thing in the grand scheme of things. But if I can't appreciate what I've got, somehow it makes me feel as though I'm not fully appreciating, therefore, what life gives me and what it could take away from me.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's very powerful. That's very powerful
And,
what you just shared.
and you mentioned
Yeah, go ahead.
something about being, I don't want to go into the light. Um, and there's a funny thing here because in a previous conversation, we talked about prayer. And prayer was something that I learned in a rather strange way, that in order to really feel a prayer and to pray for someone, I had to I had to go there first.
Mm.
For it
Mhm.
really come from the heart. I had to feel the prayer. And in feeling the prayer, I actually felt better. Now I don't know whether they energetically picked up on that good feeling, but I felt better
Yeah,
in wanting something so much for the person I was praying for.
yeah,
And actually, the really peculiar paradox is, why wouldn't I want that for myself? Why wouldn't I want to feel good? And so
I
when you
know.
pose the question about going into the light, why do you not want to go into the light? Why do we choose to actually stay in the dark? And you could take that darkness in terms of fearful emotions. Why do we want to stay in grief, in jealousy, in rage? I mean, it's don't get me wrong. We, to be human is to feel those emotions, but why
Hmm.
would we want to get stuck in them? And I do believe actually sometimes we make choices to stay there. I don't want to feel better. I'm not yet. I haven't yet suffered enough to let go of it. Uh,
Yeah,
and, I, and I wonder how much of that is happening right now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know how much is happening, out there, but I know in here it's happening a lot, and I felt it yesterday. And what I'm connecting with is back when the September 11, attack happened.
Mm.
One of the consequences of that event was that this NASA satellites that measure the electromagnetism of the planet realized that there was a huge shift in the energetic patterns, the electromagnetic patterns around the planet, which the HeartMath Institute then, through their own research, realized was actually generated by the global, you call it, the coming together of all these of the emotions, that human emotions that had basically gone out into this field, morphogenic field, whatever you want to call it, the field, this energy field, and affected the entire planet. So what if what we've been experiencing, what if what I have been feeling over the past couple of days, of course, I feel it as my anger, I feel it as my own anxiety, I feel it as my own, despair, all of that. But what if it's also just a global, I am also feeling their pain, and the entire world, what a lot of the world is expressing and communicating. And so then, that allows me to then not take it personally, but be able to just simply understand that, more and more and more we live in an interconnected world, and believe it or not, these things that that we call ultimately emotions or electromagnetism, what it really boils down to, it's light. I wanted to, in preparing for this conversation, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, what does light mean to you? Because I spent quite a bit of time today at the United Nations website looking at their definition of light and light-based technologies. I'd love to just know from you, Terry, what does light mean to you, and why do you think the UN would have chosen something, like that? Because for me, whenever I think about light, it's I give it more of a spiritual connotation. So I was really blown away when you told me that was the theme for the international year.
Vibration outside. And I think the whole vibrational frequency we could call light, although there's just this small visible bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in that sense, it's light that really connects us, because light has a vibration and we can feel it as we're feeling a vibration. So there's a part of me that looks at light as a means of connecting. And then you've got fiber optics, that's all light. You've got electricity lights that allow us to see better, to communicate better, broadband. It's all streams of light that connect the world together. So for me, I love the idea of a United Nation year of light that has an aim of connecting the world, but in so many different ways. How can we be connected more to our fellow human being?
Mm.
What about you?
Yeah. I love what you just said, and I wrote it down. The one thing that really stuck with me is when you said light is what connects us. I like that. I think most people would say love is what connects us, but I love
I would say love, Gabriel, is a vibrational frequency.
Mm-hmm.
If we looked at like unconditional love, that is almost like the total encapsulation of all vibrational frequency of light. Light, I could say that's unconditional love, because there's no good or bad, right? There's just different expressions of vibration. It's us as human beings that will pass a judgment on whether something is good or bad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Maybe now's not the time to get into the discussions of examples of heinous crimes that people go, yeah, that's terrible. But actually, every part of society, over weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, is built upon different acts.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes very difficult for us, I think, to step back and go, that's not appropriate. And there are consequences. If we live in a society, there are consequences for doing acts that disrupt society.
Mm.
But we live in the 21st century based upon some horrendous acts in the past. And we're probably still going to make horrendous acts today, tomorrow. But it gives us the opportunity to create a better future where the light vibrates at a purer intensity, if that makes any sense.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. I'm with you on that. So what is light for me? So I like to think of light as just an expression of one of the two main forces in the universe. Scientists tell us that the two main forces in the universe are electromagnetic energy and gravity. They're the two main forces. Now, the largest generator of electromagnetic energy is our sun, which it's the expression of that energy is as light and, of course, energy and warmth. Now, quantum physicists tell us that our bodies at the atomic level, the subatomic level, is made up of empty particles of light. So we are light, and when you die, most people, what they all seem to, nobody really knows what happens after death, but we do know from millions of people, well, not probably not millions, but thousands of people, that we've heard or read that say that they see a big light. So somehow, that when we transcend this physical reality, there appears to be a return to that pure source of light, or at least our interpretation of it. So for me, I like to think of that I am made out of light, but that in my human form, I forget that. I forget really that is my inheritance. That's really what I'm made out of ultimately. And it is that light that, yes, it connects us because it's everything's made out of it. So how can we not connect us? It's like every wave is made out of water, so the water connects all the waves. It's what they all have in common. And so I like to think of light as yes, it's what connects us, is our communications, it's our technology, and love it's I would say, I would agree with you. It's a particular quality or vibrational frequency of that light that can have different degrees, and at some levels can feel like anger. There's definitely a lot more light in anger than there is, for example, in just being completely, what would you call it, depressed. Depressed for me is when I've had and experienced deep periods of depression in my life. It was very dark, and at least once I moved into anger, there was just more light in that, and maybe it was still, maybe it wasn't the best thing for me to be expressing, but at least, it feels like the frequency of light in anger it's got more energy, it's got more power somehow. It's almost like the light has been increased. In fact, one of the things, one thing, I haven't shared with you about my day. Yesterday, I went walking on the beach, and it was shortly after I read the news of what happened in Paris, and I remember I was feeling this anger as I was walking, and then I just said to myself, I should just give myself permission to express this anger. After all, I'm alone here at the beach, and there's a part of me that said, no, I'm a spiritual guy, I'm a heart intelligence guy. I mean, how could I be expressing this anger? And I remember at one moment just saying, well, fuck that, I'm angry. So I just started saying, like, fuck you, birds, fuck you, sun, fuck, and I just started screaming, saying fuck you to everything. And I remember like saying fuck you to the sun and saying, you know what? You can take my fuck yous and my angers, because ultimately your sun, your energy, your light can just get rid of all of it, can transmute all of that. So this is the place to let it go. And I tell you, after I just like exercised, because that's really what I did, I exercised all this anger and I just expressed it. I just felt like the sun was just still shining on me. Nothing had changed. And I just said, this is got to be my closest experience of what God's love or God's light is really all about. It's not judging me.
Yeah, I love that. And I have this sort of cosmic picture, really, of I don't know, if God having a temper tantrum because they couldn't get their favorite sweet or something, it's like, just get on with it. I'm not playing. So I think the sun, just get it out your system, right? And then you get it out your system and you go, okay, that's fine. Off you go and play. And so there is something very childish and playful in, and that's when it becomes destructive for me. If we take out those negative emotions on the people around us, because they didn't ask for it, and just because we feel we want to vent it, doesn't mean to say there's no consequences to it. So to me, it's important for me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Paper can take it, the ocean can take it, the sun can take it, even trees can take it. In fact, I'm being reminded that in fruit of mangoes yet. And so what the farmers do is they'll take a branch, like a thick branch, and then they'll take the mango tree and they'll start beating it and insulting it and cursing it with a lot of anger. And within 3 months, the mango tree just loads up with all these mangoes and gives out. At first, what do you call it, harvest. I was living in Valencia to actually witness it. See somebody cursing it, insulting the mango tree, and then within 3 months, this mango just like loaded up with like incredible big mango. So I think somehow the way the farmers explain it, in their own way, is that once you curse the mango and the mango gets really angry at you, and because it cannot attack you, then it gives you. And finally, I just got tired of being afraid, and I got very angry. And then once I got very angry, it's like I did something about it, and I took action and made something happen. So I think that the Venezuelan farmer's story with the mangoes, I think it's an expression of that. Is that anger is not necessarily an evil thing. It is a force. It is a power. It is a force. Like the ocean can be angry. But it just means an increased level of activity that if you direct it, like you were saying, if you direct it, can create wonderful things. Can bring a tremendous amount of healing or a beautiful harvest.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I actually I love releases it, and now I'm free again. So you become more productive, more creative. Um, I like that. We're in the middle of winter here in the UK. We're not going to have much sun for me to go out and curse at the sun tomorrow.
No, you don't. You right now you want to take it very easy on the sun. You don't want to get the sun very pissed off in the middle of winter.
No, no, it probably won't come back. It'll be hidden under cloud. Yeah. But it's when you become angry with yourself because you don't feel as though you can voice something. So you go inward and you beat yourself, and it's part of that healing journey of stepping into who we are, right? But maybe it's not tempered. All it tells me is the person's afraid. I don't know what they're afraid of, but something is scaring them. And so really, it then becomes a responsibility for me not to add, as we're looking to do with these hangouts, is to allow people to be themselves.
Yeah.
Because when we're ourselves, we're at peace.
Yeah.
And the world, I think, could be a lot better place if more people were just prepared to be vulnerable and not everything sorted out and they got all their shit together. Because we don't. We might have moments when we've got it all together, but to a large extent, we go through the day a whole range of emotions. Kids, I love watching kids. My kids, they puddle jump emotions. 1 minute they're happy, 1 minute they're sad, 1 minute they're frustrated. There's a whole range of things that they go through in a day. But if I don't let go, I hold them in a particular emotion.
Yeah.
More in touch with what we're feeling, and also accept that will pass.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And this feeling of loss and tragedy in Paris, I think maybe there's also a fear that if we don't express how we feel about that in some ways it doesn't mean anything. It's not real. So we maybe spend too much time absorbed in it, around it, when we don't have to. Something happened. It was horrendous. Now what are we going to do about it? Before we went on live, I asked you the question, what would you like to get out of tonight? So, and that sense to me of what could we do for ourselves, for somebody in our family or our next door neighbor, one thing that actually said, I care about you.
Yeah.
That maybe that event in Paris triggered something, and it's like, I don't want to live in a world like that, but what can I do? It might seem insignificant, but I'm going to do one thing to this person in my life uh, at least once a day, more than we're currently doing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
I like that.
what would you like to do, Gabs?
What do you mean as it regards to what?
Yeah, as regards to something that could make a difference to somebody else's life. A small,
Hmm.
what could you commit to? One small act of random kindness.
Well, here's the thing. I spend my day making a big difference in the lives of so many people. That's my work as a client, as a coach. Um, and as you were asking that question, I immediately noticed, like what popped up for me was something that said, "Hey, I spend my day doing things for a lot of people," um, and I have noticed, especially the past couple of days, as I've also been feeling all this anger and all this stuff. What's been happening is that I've been planning my year. I've been planning activities and still taking an inventory from last year. And I have noticed I have been extremely harsh and judgmental, like with myself, towards myself. Um, I've noticed that my inner critic or this self talk has been hyperactive over the past couple of days
Mm.
for whatever reason. I don't know. And so I've noticed myself like having these thoughts of like, you're wasting your time making a difference, in the lives of so many people. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this. There are other ways of making, more money, having better financial abundance than doing all this work that you're doing right now. Maybe you should just stop doing this, or you're getting too old. Your hair is thinning. Nobody wants to listen. There are other better speakers out there. And it keeps telling you shouldn't be here. You should be here. Why are you not here? And it really is no different than a group of terrorists walking into a creative space. Person that would deal with is more with myself and learn how to, yeah, just embrace that dark aspect of myself, I guess. The author, what was the name of the author of Man's Search for Meaning? What's his name? The university
Frank,
professor.
Viktor
Hmm?
Frankl.
Yeah, Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl said, that which that which gives light must be willing to endure the burning. So I think coaches, people like you and I who are, coaches, healers, working, inspiring other people, we're constantly giving out all this light. And to give this light also means that I also to keep balance, I also have to be connected to this darker aspect, terrorist organization that lives inside of me, because that's only what I can call that. And so I think the commitment that I'm going to make, what I really feel inspiring, to have a conversation with that terrorist really in me. It catches me by surprise. That kills the creative aspect of myself, especially now that I'm planning and envisioning the year and making peace with it. Because I think that that these people in Paris, this I just want to call them terrorists for lack of a better term, or people who live from a place of fear or from a place of terror. I think ultimately what they're really is them. And I think that aspect of myself, that's what it means. It's an aspect of me that's really afraid of the changes I'm making in my life, that is afraid that I'll be again laughed at, bullied, or made fun of. That because ultimately I think that's what these people in Paris are really doing. They're really finding a new awareness, consciousness that is being emerged. And not that these creative guys, were spiritual people that were bringing in the light or anything like that. I don't know. I'm not judging that. But what I know for sure is that these are people who value self-expression, creative self-expression. And I can tell you that these terrorists, they value maintaining some kind of a status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a conversation with that aspect of myself, make peace with it, and reconnect with the creation some more. I have to be willing to endure the anger and this aspect of myself that does not want this light to shine.
That's big. Me for about 3 hours. So there's a total disproportionate income, but it's certainly, I've got the inner terrorist sabotaging me, and they're sabotaging me to save what little energy I've got left expended. And that as a mindset, as a way of engaging with the world, cannot bring me closer to the people around me, because I'm not giving much to them. I'm giving the very least I can. So you get to the point. I'm spread too thin. So taking time for yourself has huge implications and huge benefits to the people around us.
I think that's something that I think that I do. I don't do it all the time. I tell people to do it all the time. That's why I teach this stuff. So I learn it the most. It's just taking the time. The meditation and all those things are very helpful. But for me, ultimately, what it really is about taking a moment to connect with myself, to tune in with myself, and find out what it is that I need today to be present, to be okay, to be calm, to be taken care of, so that I begin by honoring that. So that's a very powerful. This is not a really spiritual woman. She's an acting teacher, but she just simply says, the sun is our source of light. So I go out there and I fill myself up with light. So, whether if you do it through meditation, whether if you do it through spending time in nature, whether if you do it through food, or just breathing, I think that's a very powerful practice to incorporate into your daily disciplines.
And what you just said there about the sun being your source of light, takes us back to this UN thing. How important light is to us, and how to grab it and be part of it, to step into the light,
That radiates, that powers our body. So think of it as your connection to the light. Sure, you can go out there and do it, by being in nature and doing the things that we were just talking about right now. But that ultimately, your connection, your communion, your spending time in your heart center is ultimately, the quickest way into your own light, your own inner source of light. And I think that in itself could just transform, heal you, and have a profound effect in your life.
Yeah. Well, that's stepping into our emotions.
Yes, and exactly.
Feeling it.
Yes.
Not thinking it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that idea of just releasing any negativity that crops up, and just venting it to a being, to an object that actually has no issue or no challenge in taking it at all. But actually, I can feel myself having a resistance to wanting to shout. So it's got to be something that would be good for me to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to shout at the sun tomorrow.
Good. Now, if you spontaneously disappear and
Yeah, I'll put a Facebook post up on that tomorrow.
Yeah. For me, more than an insight or an idea, it's just I'm actually walking away feeling lighter. I think the just the connection with you and being able to just feel actually more energized, and I think that's really the why I love connecting with you, and why I want to encourage you who's watching this, who's part of the circle, that to connect with somebody with whom you can have conversations about what's real and meaningful to you, where you can just simply be yourself, express your true self in a safe space. In my experience, there's no faster way to become enlightened than to be in relationship with somebody from this heart space.
Yes, and we have a guest speaker, a lady who I've known for 5-6 years now. Woman. She was actually featured on our breakfast news last week when some information came out on happiness. Jules is a confidence coach, but has a very grounded and practical, very authentic, real way of looking at happiness and confidence from the heart, and helping us really get an understanding of how real we are. And so I invited her to take part in what is our first guest speaker slot for this year, because I think what she has to offer is very relevant to something that's at the beginning of the year. So we've actually got a short little video of Jules just letting you know what you can hope to get from the next Heart Circle when she's taking place. So we'll be putting that up in the next couple of days. So go and check it out and register for that Heart Circle, because it really is going to be something that I'm excited about taking part in, and yeah.
Awesome. So that's going to be on Thursday, January 22nd, which will be a Thursday at the same time, which is 7 p.m. UK time. If you're in South Africa, it's 9 p.m. If you are in the United States, it's 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And if you're in Australia, you'll be completely asleep. Sorry, I don't know what time we'll be in Australia. I think it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. But don't worry, it's because the event will be recorded. So if you cannot catch it live, you can always catch it later. Okay, it will be available on YouTube.
And I'd invite people watching this, Gabriel, if they've got questions related to happiness or confidence, if they'd like to take part in the conversation with Jules, to submit that to us when they register to come to the event.
Yeah.
Because the more people who take part in the conversation, the more we're all going to get out of that amplified field.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and what I will also want to encourage you who are watching this is that you also share with us, with Terry and me, what are your takeaways from our circle today? Even though you're not at this moment participating with a voice, but you are with us energetically, and you're also being impacted and touched by the space that we're creating here. It's called the power of the amplified field. So Terry and I would love it if you could just share underneath this video. There should be an area where you can comment if you're on YouTube, or if you're in the actual page where the webinar is being broadcast. Just let us know what you got from our circle today. What big insights? What were your big takeaways? And you'll notice that right there as well, there should be a button that if you click on it, then you should be able to sign up for the Open Heart Circle newsletter, so that we can send you future emails just letting you know about future guest speakers and upcoming events. The vision that Terry and I hold for this circle is to really create a community of people who want to come together on a regular basis, just for the sake of talking about really what matters the most. So with that, Terry, say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. And same here. Thank you very much for hanging out with us today. And we look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Terry.
Good night.
Bye bye.
God bless.